Welcome to Storybreakers, the show where we come up with a brand new film idea off the top of our heads, and if you like it, it's yours. I'm your host, Chris Brennan, and with me today to break story is actor Muireann D'arcy. Muireann, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a long time coming, I think. If people have previously listened to the other version of this, then they would have been introduced to our dynamic live reading series, where Muireann was pretty much every single female character across 10 programs that we put on.
Yep. I occasionally got to talk to myself. It was great fun.
That was like that wasn't usually by design. Now we also did have Donna Nicolaisen and a couple of others
Yeah.
that joined us. However, a lot of the time, the screenplays we were working from just had such a fundamental lack of female representation. It kind of felt like I'm insulting someone by bringing them all the way to this evening to say two lines.
Yeah.
I do think that the ultimate version was we did the very first draft of the Star Wars, and there was one scene where two women talked to each other, and there was that was it. Like there was, except for Leia. So we orchestrated that you should just talk to yourself.
Yeah. And that one scene where two women talk to each other, like not only could that scene have been taken out and like literally it would have been the same film, but the other character who Leia talks to could have been taken out. And in fact, immediately dies as soon as that scene where the two of them talk to each other is over, and the film would have been exactly the same, which is probably why she was taken out of the film by the time.
Yeah. No, it's really funny and fascinating when you actually look at, if you examine those screenplays, which they range from the 70s to the 80s, all the way up to the mid 2000s, and see how far we've actually already went to. Like, I think there's been strides made in even the past 10 years to kind of balance it out. Because I think for me, it was just creating the Excel sheet and just breaking down the character list, and then for the actors. And every time I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to talk to these people? How am I going to say, this is what you have to deal with? You can play Lois Lane, reporter number 1, pedestrian 2. I've changed the gender of these 3 just to balance it out a little bit. I was like, a creative license. I didn't like to take too much creative license, but on that side, I'm like, gotta justify it.
Yeah. Whereas then it would be like David and Donna would be like, you're playing Batman and you know.
That's it. But the thing is, you never came on a actual Storybreakers episode where we literally come up with a film idea off the top of our heads. So
Yeah.
I'm delighted we can right that wrong and we can get you on today's show,
I mean,
which is actually quite special.
We'll see if it's a wrong righted. I'm slightly terrified, but we're going to do our best.
It'll be good. I initially contact you, and sometimes this is a little different because usually, like half the time, I press record and I have no idea what we're doing. Sometimes people bring on, like a writer will bring on like a nugget of an idea, like they have a log line. I go, let's do it. This time when we were chatting about what options it could be, I went back to this concept that I've been wanting to do as an episode for years. And I thought, let's see if you'd like to do it. And it's basically to do a new version of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Like, ever since I've seen the film like years ago, and then kind of forgot about it. But I've always thought like that is kind of screaming for something new. And I just said it to you. You apparently have never heard of it before, which I think, was it the poster that I sent you it as well as the title? Like, what exactly drew you to saying yes to this ludicrous idea?
It was that it was the title and the poster, and that those two things combined, I guess, and looking at them and going, okay, this is a film made in 1958. I was like, this is surely ripe with like stuff to talk about. If nothing else, like we're gonna have a good chat about something in there, because
Right.
the poster is a 50-foot woman wearing a bikini made of sheets. I'm like, I could talk for an hour on like how does she have a bikini made of sheets? It makes no sense. Why is it
And
a bikini?
I imagine the notes are like, can we make it shorter? And it's like, it's short enough.
Pretty
The sheet
fucking
wouldn't
short.
be that. It's a double bed. No, make it king size sheets.
I'm doing the mental maths of like king size sheet. Okay, so if you're 50 feet tall, how wide are you around? I don't think a sheet will fit, and yet somehow she has clothing.
Somehow it happens.
Mm,
Yeah. So then, did you actually get a chance to watch the film before we hit record?
I did get a chance to watch,
Nice.
and I have literally taken notes.
Oh wow! The
Yeah.
first notes in Storybreakers history.
I'm a very diligent student and also a very anxious person.
Lovely. So let me hear what you think. What was your take on the 1958 attack of the 50-foot woman?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. It's a very interesting film, I thought, because obviously there's a lot that to modern sensibilities you're like, ooh, not sure I like this. But I found it really interesting in terms of like the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman is obviously a sci-fi film, because that's just what it is. But watching it, it really felt like it didn't know yet that it was sci-fi, because that's, I don't know, I guess something that is only being created in 1958 is like what a sci-fi film is.
Okay.
So it was really interesting to watch and be like, wow, you really like, there's certain things that I found really funny where I was like, they spend a really long time, there's a bit where the alien picks up a cop's car and kind of crushes it and then throws it to the ground. And they spend like a minute and a half, which is a long time in movie time, being like, oh, we'll just try the radio. Yeah, no, that's broken. Okay, so I guess we'll walk into town and then we'll come back later and we'll clean up this stuff and we'll take this with us. And they spend a really long time making sure the audience knows that these people who now have to walk into town are coming back to the car and they've made sure the radio doesn't work. They never explain how she grows to 50 feet tall in her bedroom and the house is fine. Never. There's a hand the size of the room that you see, and I'm like, where's the rest of her? And how is the house not broken? We just never get to know. And I just thought it's just interesting. The kind of a lot of the shots of it as well, like the kind of feels of it. There's this whole thing about her husband is like very quickly persuaded to try and murder her. And he's like creeping along trying to steal the morphine and all this stuff. And there's lots of like kind of Hitchcockian almost, or like noir kind of lighting elements that I'm like, are you a horror? No, you're not a horror film. You're a sci-fi, but you just don't know that yet. That I thought was really interesting and really kind of cool to play with.
Isn't it also a bit of a relationship drama? From what I remembered, it's like he's a philanderer and she becomes a giant woman who's scorned. So I was like, so I'm like, okay, interesting. Again, this has been years and I purposely didn't want to watch it because I'm like, look, we can think of something, like we'll figure it out. But I do remember a bit of it, like the title, it wasn't ironic. It was like, she does attack, and it's like, she's the attacker.
But she attacks in the last, I think, 8 minutes of the film. Like it's an hour and a half long and it's 8 minutes of like 8 minutes are left when she like arises 50 feet tall and goes after him and the mistress. And I'm like, you're running out of time here. You're going to have to wreak some havoc real fast, which she then does. She's very efficient. But yeah, it's funny because I was kind of watching it going, this is bizarre that like I have not seen a 50-foot tall woman in the first, in most of the film, especially she is 50 feet tall and then up in her bedroom for a while. I found watching it was really interesting because it was tricky to figure out who the protagonist was, because there's huge chunks of the film that she's not in. Sorry, my cat is going to potentially come and say hello now. And there's huge chunks of the film where she's not there, and the sort of that like protagonist journey that you would expect isn't really there for her. And I was kind of going, is it the husband? Because really, we see more of him and his sort of, we see him with his girlfriend in a hotel and him in the bar and him, like we see him before we ever see her. That I just found it really interesting that I was like, this is the attack of the 50-foot tall woman, but she doesn't even feel like she's the main character of the film. But equally, nobody else feels like they're the main character of the film,
Maybe that was a problem with the structure. As you say, like it feels like it's a lot of different things. And your description of that also reminded me of Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, which was pitched as Jason Goes to New York, but technically he's on a boat for like an hour and 15 minutes, and then he has this 5 to 7 minutes in Times Square, and then just alleyways, and they're like, everyone went, you said Manhattan, like we expected all of it. And also he traveled from the lake on a boat to New York, from the lake. Like the secluded, isolated body of water with no exit. It's like they went from there to New York, which is delicious.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's probably Manhattan adjacent. He's in New York. He's just on a body of water.
Yeah. So I think we should take a new crack at this. And I mean, right away, we should say that the woman who becomes 50 feet and is accused of attacking should probably be the protagonist, right?
I feel like it's the most interesting thing if she is. Yeah. I also, while watching it, and this might be too off the wall to be a movie concept. I was like, it was really coming to me that like it's so interesting to see, like it's said like a million times there. It's obviously a very early film, so like they have all this stuff like done in forced perspective, and that thing where they don't know who the protagonist is, and they don't know that they're a sci-fi film yet. And I really got this like feel of like when you're a teenager making your first film with your friends, and you're like, okay, this thing that that this director does, and we're going to try it out. And of course it's a complete B version of what you see your the big studios making.
It's the and then this happens, and then this happens, and then it's a collection of thens.
We're going to do interesting, but it's fully going to look like that's just someone else's hand really close to the camera, and and all my friends running away from it in the distance.
Yeah. That's pretty cute.
Yeah.
What do you think? So I have literally nothing, but the one thing that I did think when I initially would be reminded of this idea was that I always thought the title should be ironic, that the woman isn't attacking, but especially in modern times, maybe people perceive her as attacking, and therein lies the fun of it, where it just happens to be a person who becomes big. And while she's trying to figure it out, like she steps on something, she speaks, and people are like, that's really loud. Like she's hysterical. Like, and so I guess media, the public, everybody accuses her of attacking. And she's like, I am not attacking, but everything she does is misunderstood or misrepresented as an attack. And she's like, I don't know how to get out of this scenario. I'm just trying to get across town. And everybody is reacting like I'm the aggressor here. Please, someone help me. And just have something like that. Like, I don't know. Just then the title Attack of the 50-Foot Woman is how people perceive her, not how she actually is. So it wouldn't be revenge, aggression. Maybe it gets to a frustration point where she can get a little pissed off at how people are behaving around her. But I don't know, if you want her to go that route, I think there would be so much fun that you could actually mine out of this.
I think as well, it's a real like, is allegory the right word for like like as a woman, you're like, I don't know I don't want to be too loud because then people will just say I'm too loud and they won't listen to me. But I want to change things maybe for the better. But
Right.
also, like it's that kind of,
Yeah,
how do
it's
you walk on the eggshells the right amount,
would it be like with tennis stars? There would be like John McEnroe, for
Mm.
example, or some of the other more recent ones who would start screaming at the referee and they're like, look at his passion and his competitive spirit. But then one of the Williams sisters does it and they say she's hysterical. And you're
Mhm.
like, wait, no, hey, she's, why is that not just passionate? Why is that just not a competitive spirit? Why does that have to be framed, especially with headlines and like social media captions as she's gone hysterical? It's like she's the outburst that she had. It's like, I don't know. Like I've seen plenty of men smashing rackets. So, I think you're right. There's something very modern about her. It could be a really great
Yeah.
allegory for that. For modern womanhood, or how women are probably perceived in the eyes of media, society as a whole, and
Yeah.
maybe the general public. So yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
When you said about like the actually, maybe getting frustrated at some point and being like, that kind of thing of, I actually do want to smash something, but I'm 50 feet tall. The thing that popped into my head was, have you ever been to a rage room?
A rage room? No.
Okay, so they're basically a padded room full of things to smash, and like bats and like, you know glass jars you can throw at a wall, and it's the idea is that you just go and break things in a room. So I'm just imagining, like, there's not a 50-foot tall rage room that like other people can go and do that, and she can't even go and engage in a rage room because she's so tall that she won't fit.
I can actually see a scene where it's kind of one of those things in Roland Emmerich films where you have these moments with little side characters, or even actually Armageddon, if you've seen that or recall it. They take these moments where they introduce small characters that have nothing to do with anything, and then they like knock them down, blow them up, things like that. I feel like you'd have a scene where you would see a group of people enter in a rage room, and then they have to run out and she accidentally crushes it. So she smashes the rage room and she's like, ah. And they're like, she's destroying rage rooms, and she's now just frustrated because she accidentally stepped on it. Things like that. Or like hysterical giant destroys rage room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think before we go any further, we probably should, for our mind and probably the listeners and the viewers, come up with the woman's name and maybe pick a actor who could play them, just so we can kind of all agree upon like visually who we kind of see. That really helps with the characterization as well. And then maybe play with the first act, kind of figure out the character arc as well. So what kind of personality were you thinking of, if we were to create the character who would eventually become the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman? Also taking into account like the arc of where they go to along the way, and that'll probably help dictate who it is and then who we kind of visualize and quote cast in this role.
Yeah, I guess it's like, we kind of know the point of view of this 50-foot woman on being 50 feet tall, but like, what's the personality of them really dictates who you want to, are they like kind of already a bit of a boss when they become 50 feet tall, or are they not at all a boss when they become 50 feet tall? Like, what is the thing that happens to them that makes them be 50 feet tall? I think is, because I'm like, I don't know, it could be anybody, but surely that means I need to figure out who
Yeah,
it is.
I could see somebody who's a bit annoyed and prickly anyway, and then when that happens, they're like, great. Like for some reason, the Russian doll actor,
Oh,
Natasha
Natasha
Leon.
Lyonne.
I feel like that would be like she'd be like great, like just wonderful, and that kind of energy at that height, I think could
Yes.
be fun. It wouldn't be this kind of delicate person who's like tiptoeing around. I think you want somebody who could actually have a bit of a temper, somebody who may be accused whenever they do speak their mind as their normal size. And you could probably set this up in the first act already, that this person does speak their mind and it gets misunderstood. So you're kind of introducing that, but then you're putting putting on steroids and you're kind of blowing it up to magnitude size. But I don't know. It's just,
yeah, I think that's a great
once I thought the word prickly, I just kind of imagined her, and
Although,
she's frustrated with it.
I feel like she has that real frenetic energy. Like anything she's in, she's like constantly kind of on the move, which if you were 50 feet tall, accidentally doing a bit of a like, kind of happy feet at all times situation, that could really lead
Right.
to major problems,
That deep
like,
voice could be quite growly, especially like this kind of booming like voice.
Yeah.
That's me growling, not me doing an impression of her.
Yeah.
But
she's such a kind of a brilliant deadpan humor deliverer as well.
Yeah.
That, like, that would probably lend itself very, very well. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the type of person we're looking at. And we already have an idea of that this person has to deal with this in their day-to-day life anyway. The kind of frustration of when they have the point of view, it's misunderstood and misrepresented. So that when it gets heightened, then it feels exacerbated. I'm not really sure what the arc is, but we'll figure that out anyway. And then I suppose, what's the framework of how it goes? Because in the 50s version, it was an alien, and I don't think that's the route to go. I think it's difficult to put one, like the audience can buy one crazy idea, but having alien and then giant person, it's a lot like to take in. I think it's more of an inventor or like a contraption that somebody created, and that's the thing that happens to them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
aliens always just feel too like god of the machine, like, oh, we needed something to happen, so aliens. And so that's it's like we conveniently needed something to show up for just long enough to affect the plot and then go away forever again.
Yeah. I feel like now that we have her, I feel like if she's hungover as well, that would be extra fun. I think of Die Hard with a Vengeance. These references are coming fast and wild.
I love it.
I've always thought of like how enjoyable watching Bruce Willis's John McClane struggle with a hangover through everything. It's like that. As an adult, like when I watched it, I was like, he looks rough. As like when I was a kid and I watched it, he looks rough. As an adult, I go, poor guy. And then you have somebody, she's like looking for painkillers, and then she has to take like so many tiny bottles to like actually kill her pain, or even have like
bottles whole, like the bottles are now the painkillers, like,
to the capsule.
Now take 2, massive bottles.
Yeah, she's like, do you have any tomato juice? And she's like, I need more tomato juice. So there's something, just I think that would be so much fun. Just having that character, it gives us a whole different texture.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like hangover. So she was out partying the night before, I suppose, or met somebody the night before. And maybe it's at that person's place it happens. Like, it's convenient that if she had a one-night stand with someone and wandered into their other room, I'm like, how do you get that person into it? You can make them a scientist, I suppose, but at the same time, you want a newbie, like you don't want somebody who has a lot of education in that area. I think you want to have someone who's like, I have no idea what's going on, instead of like, oh, my colleague knows this. It's like, I slept with this person, I went in a dumb room, this happened to me, I'm doing this stupid walk of shame. And why is it a walk of shame anyway? And I just grew to this big size. I'm hungover, I'm pissed off. I stepped on the rage room earlier. Like, this is like everything just comes out.
Break.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that, I think, like, are you feeling that? I feel like that energy in that kind of scenario would be a unique, fun place to begin from.
Yeah, I kind of love, I feel like this is just because I'm a bad person, but I kind of love like comedies where the main character just cannot catch a break for a minute,
Right.
Kind of like, I mean, I suppose Die Hard is not so much of a comedy, but like it's that thing of like, oh, and now there's glass on the floor, and like at every moment where the plot is heightened, it's like, we're just gonna make things a little bit tougher for you because it's fun for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it feel like. And as you say, in the original, it's the last 8 minutes. I think what we're saying is it's like the first act, then you're getting in there. Maybe it gets the 8th minute, she gets zapped or whizzed or whatever contraption. I don't care. This is where in screenplays you put sciencey, whatever. Machine, it doesn't matter on this draft, but it's like she leaves the place, and then maybe does she like gradually get bigger? I guess that'd be fun, because you get a bit of fun over like walking by someone and looking down on them, and like walking by something else and banging her head on a door when she's trying to get in, and then maybe, as you say, that it gets increasingly difficult. Imagine she does go to the pharmacy to finally get the painkillers, but then she's actually growing rapidly and has to get out before she actually can get them. So she's like, oh no. And she's like, it's kind of like the Indiana Jones run before the door shuts. It's just, she's got to get out of this pharmacy before she gets stuck in it.
She is Boulder.
Yeah, she's the boulder. That's literally a line she could have going, Jesus Christ. Like, I thought I'd be Indiana Jones. I'm the goddamn boulder. Yeah. But I think, even these little scenarios, you kind of, if you do it on that gradually growing, you'd have so much fun with the scenarios that lead up to the 50 feet tall. And similar to like what you probably can understand from what you can utilize from the original is, this has got to be like a one-day thing, right? This isn't going to be like, for 2 weeks now she's been big. I think it's like, the intensive walk of shame, or whatever you want to call, like that one morning, or that leads into the evening, and you kind of got this one day outlook where I guess we want to know where she's going. Going home is one thing, but we've got to create these obstacles. You want to have
interesting as well when it's like you have other shit to do and you're dealing with this. There's someone's important birthday, there's a wedding, there's something you need to be at, and you're very inconveniently 50 feet tall, or like there's a pitch at work that you have to go to, and
that's brilliant.
Becoming more complicated.
And then that could be part of her thing is she's she has those issues with other people, but maybe she's unreliable as well. And she's like, no, I promise I will be there. I don't know what she's gonna be there for, but she promises she'll be there. She goes out that night, wakes up, God damn it, like I did it again. No, I still have time to be there. And she's trips into the sciencey box machine thing, and now she's trying to get to that destination, but she's like really determined to not break her promise, or to like hold up her end of the bargain. And then she's 50 foot tall. Like, I don't know how to do this, but she will make it. She will make it. I don't know what that could be. You can go businessy with the important pitch. You can go familial with a wedding of some kind or the birth of her niece or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of different ways you can go. There's no right or wrong, I suppose. I guess it's just kind of what would we like emotionally to have this
Yeah.
character agree upon that potentially she has failed in the past. That she's let people down in the past, I should say.
I feel like, again, throwing up as many obstacles for her as possible. It's like, what if it's actually like there's two things? There's a work thing and a personal thing, you know? And
Okay.
it's like that's even part of the flakiness, is that it's like you're trying to do all of the things and like you've been promised that you can have it all, so you're trying to do that, but actually you're either going to let people down or burn yourself out, is the actual reality of that. And so it's like, I have to get to this pitch meeting and work, and then I will be at the like, you know, the birthday party, the birth of the child, the wedding rehearsal dinner, like, because I have 30 minutes between the two to get there, and I'll change in the car, and then it's like, oh no. You know,
I could even see her believing that that's possible before, like the night before. She's like, "Look, I can do it. Like, I can do it. Like, I just won't go drinking tonight. I'll be fresh tomorrow." You know?
Yeah, I'll go for one, and then it's never one.
Yeah. Even you could have the person that she sleeps with. That person's gone the next morning, maybe, because that's another, like, she has to find this person to like go like what you did. Like, you could even have her accidentally break the machine or something. So it's like, look, gosh damn it, like I broke this thing and that person's gone. And she's like, I don't know where they went to, but now I've got to go to this pitch. I got to go to my wedding birth. I don't know, whatever. And I gotta find this
engagement
person
that we will figure out later.
yeah. But now you've got the third. Like, I like what you're saying. Like, you just stack these up, and she's like, I've got all this to do today, and I got to do it. Because I guess as we were talking, what I'm thinking is we want to keep her propulsively moving forward, and the gag about people misunderstanding, that's not what's going to fulfill the plot. That's just kind of the fun elements, the takeaways, when like you cut to the media reacting and news and her reactions to their reactions. You can't build a plot around that, though. That's just the kind of the feeling around it. So yeah, I like having, she needs to be at these two places and find this one person while she's gradually growing to 50 feet tall.
Yeah. I have this like idea as well, that it's like, you know, she wakes up in the morning, she's like, for the shower, you know, get a shower, get out, get home, sort myself out for all the things I have to do today. And that's when she ends up in the machine. And that like, even that sort of precursor to her growing 50 feet tall is that coming out of the machine, she like bangs her head on the door frame.
Oh, it's good.
She's just grown a little bit, you know? And so it's like, okay, nothing really has happened to me. That was weird. Oh, I'm just going to go home. And then it's, you know.
I even like the idea of she misunderstands the machine for a shower. So it's literally pouring onto her. And maybe as she goes in there, she looks at this giant tin of beans or something. She's like, "That's a stupid thing. Who'd make a giant tin of beans?" You know, or something like innocuous and like kind of like basically the person clearly was testing like growth machine, like the growth machine, and she gets in, putting buttons like, "Oh, this person with their fancy shower."
Yeah, what's the latest in bachelor pads these days? I don't know, you know.
Yeah. That could be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
feel like we
interesting.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, there's even a thing where we don't even have to make it a she's a one night stand with a guy. It could be just a one night stand with a woman as well.
Which,
there's no reason.
I'm always down for make it gay. You know, myself and I think it's Mel Brooks. Make it gay.
Well, I think one thing I enjoy with these is it's just a happenstance, like it isn't because they were gay this happened, So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like that could just be the thing. She meets someone in a bar, they go home. Like, why couldn't the scientist be a woman who was creating the shower giant 3000 or whatever? Just because I was like, while we're talking about it, I was like, I'm not actually even picturing a guy in this scenario. Maybe it's the casting I was looking at, or I don't know. I was like, we could open this up to different things. But for me, I actually am more looking forward to it. That's just a vantage point of mine. I'm actually looking forward to more stories where it just happens to be that, rather than like, let's find a way to kind of justify it. It's like,
oh my God. Like,
you didn't need to. You just, I would completely accept it as that. A lot of times I feel like it's actually distracting to kind of go around the plot to go, and then this is why they're gay. It's like, you didn't just be gay, dude. You can have a gay scientist meet a gay reporter. Like, that's normal.
I mean, it is generally how we do be living our lives. Is just it's incidental to the plot, Certainly for me, for my wife, for all of our friends. Sometimes you kind of go, "Oh, we're doing this while gay, fun." I totally agree with you. I think that's like, as much as like, coming out stories are really important. Like, there's enough of them. We don't need more. We can just be existing in the world as normal human beings.
Get to the point where LGBT plus isn't actually a category, because it's like I'm like, oh, is it a category? Like okay, like, I mean, I understand it is a category, but I'm like, but then does a film about like just happenstance, they happen to be gay, does that automatically go in that category too, or is it more coming out as the category?
The sad thing is that it absolutely does go in that category at the minute, because so many studios don't want to have that be in their films, because so and so is not going to want to watch it. This country is going to ban it. All that kind of stuff. So it's actually, like, it's the sad thing that it's like, actually, any representation of LGBTQIA plus people goes into goes into that little section of Netflix, because it's like, oh, we're in this. Cool. That's not actually, even though it should be, even though the people actually wanting to make the films and be in the films want it to be and are pushing for it to be, it still isn't actually just a thing that is normal to see and everything now. But in our film, it's absolutely going to be normal to just be like,
I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, because equality and segmentation kind of feel like they're kind of fighting for the same space. And it's like, is it that we all kind of accept each other, or is it about dividing each other up into separate segments and identifying what makes us different? And it's like, other thoughts for different theories, but I think in this way, I just enjoy it happens to be, like, and then just see if we can even do our part in a made up story at the top of our heads on a podcast, if it just happens to be that way. All right, cool.
Well, when whoever takes on this script and makes it, they can be the people championing the existence of more representation that is just incidental. Anyway. What's her job?
Maybe something like, if we're playing with media, like the idea of that, maybe it is in the media space, and like we already have this concept where this person is going to be disagreeing with people, and somebody says, calm down, and she's like, I am calm. Like, it's like, hey, don't get all hot-headed. And she's like, I'm quieter than you are. One space that actually has a lot of that kind of friction already is journalism and like the bullpen. I mean, otherwise it could be like a chef. Like, I think if you put these kind of, I don't think chef. I think we're circling an area anyway. So if she has more media experience, then she knows what they're up to when she's probably walking by a store, or maybe seeing herself on a billboard, like kind of New York Times Square kind of giant billboards and the caption of like hysterical giant woman, and she's like, why am I hysterical, you know, like, and it's probably her people as well who are also misrepresenting her and her boss. So I think if you kind of brought her into that space, I think there's a lot you could play with, because she's aware of how they're not telling the story right, and now she's becoming hyper aware of how she should behave in order to not be misrepresented. But then even now when she's doing this, she's acting awkward, and then they're misunderstanding that. And she's like, I was just trying to, God, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want? Yeah. I can't say a word. If I speak, you think I'm screaming and shouting. If I'm silent, then I'm a deadly giant killer. Like, what do you want from me? Similar to what you say, like all the decisions are like wrong for her.
I even feel like there's like, you know, someone from her newspaper rings her to be like, oh, like, we'll set the story straight, but she can't answer her phone because it's this big, you know, and it's like, she declined to comment. She would not take our calls. It's like, I can't take your calls.
Oh my God, that would be so funny, because she's trying to set like the camera is trying to use facial recognition, but all it's getting is her is one part of her eye. So she like puts the phone like far away and tries to back up to be in the frame, and then someone runs off with her phone, and she's like, God damn it. You know? Maybe if I stand far away, it'll frame my face, and someone steals her phone, which is delicious, you know, like that's such a common problem, like theft, but you find a way to kind of build it into the ridiculous supernatural. Well, I think it's always a fun thing, like if you can take a concept that's heightened but also take relatable issues and kind of combine them together, the audience can be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened, you know.
I also feel like it could be like the person who steals her phone is like, because to put it at face level, it would probably have to be like, you know, like in the window of a building or something, and so they're in a building really high up, you know, running down a flight of stairs, or like just in the building, and they're safe from her being like, give me back my phone, even though she's 50 feet tall and could just squish him. But they just like, I just have to grab this and take a step back, and then I've successfully robbed you.
Yeah, that's it. Sweet. So then we're saying she's a reporter, has issues at work, goes out. She also, and let's just set it as maybe, actually, you know, her being 50 foot, if she was attending a wedding, you're like, okay, if she was trying to make it to the birth of her niece, now you're dealing with a hospital who clearly do not want a giant showing up. So I think maybe we went that angle. Yeah. She's like, I'm not gonna miss this. And it's like, how are you even gonna get in the door? You know, like, no, I will find a way, you know. So maybe it's the birth.
The edge of like, you know, if it's that like her like sibling just goes into labor, that's then an extra kind of heightened thing of like, I didn't even think this was going to be on my plate today, but now I have to be there to be a birthing partner. Oh no. You know.
Oh, that's really nice. In fact, oh wow. So what if it was that her sister goes into labor, but because, and now I'm jumping like way deep into this, but she's kind of wrecked the city by accident, and so now she has to help her sister get to the hospital, because like the way to get there is not like, it's a national emergency now because of her. So she's like, I said I'd be there for you. It's not even her trying to get to the hospital where her sister is. It's her trying to get her sister to the hospital and get through all of the people who are misunderstanding, thinking she's a like this Godzilla person, you know. So there could be something like, fun there.
She has taken hostage a pregnant woman who can be seen screaming through the city, but like she's in labor, so she's screaming, you know.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it could even be at that point that I'm just trying to like, of course, make stuff off the top of your head. I'm just thinking, is it a thing where she while she's doing that, she gets zapped again, or she starts to get smaller. So as she gets near the hospital, she actually gets to the perfect size to go in the door with her sister. I was just like, if the journey to get to the hospital, she's actually gradually getting back to normal size. It's kind of like she's, I get arc wise, you could find a way to make it like she's actually fulfilling her promise, where she'll be there for her sister. And so she's literally at the door. You could even set the dialogue about like, every time I turn around to the door, you're not there, you know? And at the end, she's actually at the door, but she can actually fit in. Or maybe she just bumps her head one last time, like how we started it with the shower. So she's like, I made it, clunk. And she's like, oh God damn it.
I also though love the idea of like supporting someone through like labor and delivery through the window of the hospital. You know what I mean? And being like, I can fit my pinky through the window for you to hold, you know?
That's very good.
I wonder if it's like at that point she's like actively being zapped, you know what I mean, and getting like perfect height to be like, I'm here, and then it's like, I'll be back in a minute, you know, as she's getting teenier and teenier. And then
I think I like that a lot. I think you're right, because then it's when the baby's born, she could be at the door, you know, like that thing. Yeah, it's too nice of a moment that she's at the window going, look, I'm here, I'm there, like I'm over here, you know. Well, you're out there. Well, I'm there. I'm there for you. You know, like just kind of like semantically describing.
Making sure you are by a window in a hospital, you know, so that I can be here.
So then let's just go back a little bit. So she's left, she's gradually growing, she's got a hangover, she goes to the pharmacy, she gets too big, like she has rapid spurts, right? So you can have a little fun with gradually growing and then just having these heightened spurts. So she gets out, so she still wants painkillers, which again, as you say, constantly giving her needs and then constantly keeping her away from it.
The writing gods taketh away.
Yeah. Then I'm trying to think of other, like an actual, like dedicated antagonist. I know we have antagonizing forces. We don't need to have an antagonist as such, but I'm just trying to get into the frame of like, when does she get to 50 feet? I think we have enough of the framework of the structure. Now let's kind of like work out like when she's gotten big, what's the first thing that happens where people go, oh no, you did this? And then it's kind of the misunderstandings. And I think at that point, we've kind of got everything. And that's as normal with Storybreakers. We don't follow a linear path because we're literally brainstorming. But like, what do you think when she leaves the pharmacy, she's getting bigger? Yeah, what's like she's now freaked out because she's heightened. Then does she get big immediately, or?
Yeah, I feel like at that point you're gonna go, oh God, what's happening to me? How do I stop it? And that's probably going to lead to an attempt to contact the one night stand.
Okay.
So potentially there's some like attempted, you know, what was their name? Oh, did I have their like number in my phone, like trying to ring them, and then she's getting bigger and bigger and the phone is getting less and less usable the bigger she is?
Yeah, and then we combine that with what we previously said with the facial recognition, because at the same time she's getting a call from somebody, and that's when people start getting footage of her, and it's all kind of happening at the same time, which is actually quite a film moment where like, excuse me, it's happening to her, people are watching her, she's getting a phone call, and it's stressful. She's trying to find this number. Maybe she's about to call it, and then she gets too big for the phone, which is really frustrating. And then she gets another call and she's like, no, get off the line. I can't get off. No. And then she can't make the call. She misses the other call. Yeah. She's furious. She's trying to get the thing done and her phone is stolen. And she's like, God damn it. Then maybe you have that moment actually where you're kind of up close with her and she's like, God damn it. And she's like really frustrated. Then you cut out and she's gigantic. So where she was
That
just,
Godzilla, moment.
yeah, where she's just like, God damn it, and kick something. And then you have this, like, I can see visually like the cut where you just cut out and she's like nearly the size of the building already. And she didn't realize it because she's like so kind of blind with frustration over this exact moment going wrong. And then she just like torpedoed in size, another spurt. And that's where everybody goes, what the hell is this? Which then they actually have footage of this giant woman bellowing with rage. And that's the clip they use to actually go, oh, there's a attack of the 50-foot woman, and then you've got the news cycle already going, playing this clip again.
Woman denies God, vows vengeance on city.
That you can even have her pleading with people, going, "Hey, sorry, just like, can you please stop filming me? This is uncomfortable for everybody. Just please stop. Just would you stop?" And like maybe her breath is like blows people down, just like, sorry, and that's probably still stinking from the night before. And she's like, sorry. And they're like, toxic breath. And she's like, I had some whiskey. She's like, even like
old fashions.
yeah. And that kind of kicks off that. Now that's like launching her into her journey as a giant and the circumstances that she constantly finds herself in, where I would imagine the police show up at some point and she's like, wonderful, thanks for being here. And they're like, hands up. My hands are up. Look, I'm just, and they're like, stop moving. And she's like, and as you said, she's got that frenetic energy where they're actually starting going, she's being aggressive, and she has to like run behind a building going, oh my God, like, what are you doing? Like, so everything now you have footage of her fleeing from the police, and she's like, I'm not fleeing. You'd have to find a way to get enough of the screens around her, even if it's maybe a TV screen in a window or something. We want her to understand the misrepresentation of what's happening to her, and that's exacerbating her frustration. And knowing that kind of character, that would heighten her issue. She's like, that's not what happened, like, so now the hysterical giant is showing up, and she's just trying to do what she did earlier, which would be try to calmly say what the issue is, and people calm down. I am calm, but like, it's now that exact moment on a city street with everybody with bullhorns going, just calm down. Do not get hysterical. It's like word for word what her colleague or boss said earlier, and she's like, I don't believe this.
I also have this idea of like, it feels like this is set in New York, because I feel like New York or some place like it, where it's a lot of people in a small area with very tall buildings, just feels like, probably because of Godzilla, ripe for a giant person to come along. But that idea of like needing to be around loads of screens so that she can see what's happening, it's like, there's nothing worse for a New Yorker than to find yourself in Times Square. So it's like, while running police, she's like, no, not Times Square, of all places, like the crowds. But she's also surrounded by the screens,
It could even be, you could even set it up as even an extra layer joke where she has to, like, somebody's getting like a really important story and she's not, and they're like, why don't you go down to Times Square and interview this new viral sensation of this like living statue, And she's like, I'm not going down there. Like, what? That's nothing. Like, he's literally standing around. Like, and so you lead all the way to the point where she accidentally arrives in Times Square, cut to the living statue, scared of her. And she's like, I'm not here for you. Like, so you kind of built this entire scenario to eventually lead to them meeting each other. And he runs away. And she's like, see, he's a shitty statue anyway. Like,
oh, he stays still through anything, does he?
yeah. She's like, it's not a talent. Like, he'll probably run away when he sees you. Ha ha. Yeah, right. And then he runs away. Like there's something that you could do if you set it up, hopefully in the ideal way. The audience will just kind of take note, ignore it, and then when you pay that off at that moment, it's just delicious. You know?
Oh, that's not you guy. And then
So
equally, Times Square is full of people, so she's like, okay, I'm just like, she's essentially one of those statues now, just like trying not to move and until she can make sure she doesn't squidge anybody.
yeah, that just quietly and calmly just touches a wall just to keep balance, and like her pinky just kind of cracks into a window, and like you hear a scream like ah. She backs up, pinky goes into the other window, ah, and she's like, I don't know what's going on. Like they're my pinkies.
I'm just trying to get through Times Square. Yeah, absolutely.
I also think there's a moment where she'd need a minute of calm. Maybe she hides and they actually don't know where she is. Maybe they do know, but she just needs to take a break. And my time in New York, I remembered how quiet Central Park actually can be in the middle of a city. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just see this moment where she's just lying on the grass, like this giant person just lying in the grass. And it's like out of everything that's going on, she's like, I'd love a cigarette, you know, and she's just lying down, and you have this calm moment in all the chaos. I could actually think that would be quite refreshing, or she just takes a minute. She's like, okay, I got to get back up. Like maybe the helicopter she hears, and she's like, they're not going to let me lie here. So she has to get up, and she's like, get away. And they're like, they're swatting at the helicopter. Like, you're flying in my face. You know?
Yeah, and there can actually literally be that conversation because they're eye level, you know.
He's trying to somebody's trying to interview her from the helicopter, and she's like, "Your blade, like you will just cut me." You're like, that's very fun. Yeah. So now she's accused of attacking the media. So she's attacked the police. She's attacked the public. She's attacked the police. She's now attacking the media. Like she's like, I can't win. Like she attacked the living statues. You know?
Yeah.
Like everything.
Equally, so I think for the ending to happen, she kind of needs to find her mad scientist again to turn her back.
Yeah.
So I feel like as well, maybe that comes in with the media that it's like, you know, can this person please contact me? I'm 50 feet tall and I need not to be anymore. You know, like that.
That's really nice.
Because she can't use a phone. So how does she then contact this person to be like, hello, I'm wreaking havoc on New York. If you could maybe
it's something where they, in the evening before, they shared like a conversation about like one place they mutually love to go to.
Yeah.
And that's the code she uses because she's actually trying to get away from the police and the media. So she uses the media to like hold up a sign or something that is like indicating where they can meet. And now this 50-foot woman has to evade public. And it's like, how do you get away? Like, it's like, I don't know. Well, that's the fun part of it. Like, how do you escape everybody when you're a giant? So she's going to have to find that part and then try to find that area itself. Because otherwise, I love your idea. Like, you would use the media, and you could even say the scientist potentially could have just been underground, like who's been like offline all morning and all afternoon, you know, and then comes up and sees this person. But if you just go meet me here, that's not that dramatic. So if you kind of bring in the twist of I've got to go meet this person alone, how do I let them know? It might be that conversation we had where there's one place we like that we can meet, and it could be like the boardwalk or something, you know, I don't know, like some kind of
he's in the water and mad scientist lady is on the boardwalk because she'd break the boardwalk if she stood on it, you know.
Yeah, that could be nice. Under the boardwalk. So, well, I can't get under it, but you know.
You go on top of it. I'll be technically under it and on top of it at the same time because there's so much of me. Yeah.
I could even be dancing to the song Under the Boardwalk.
Yeah. The idea of a sign, like how would she create a sign? But I wonder, my knowledge of Central Park is limited to the one and only time I was there. But
Okay.
I think I remember that there's like a section where there's loads of like big rocks, like kind of big
Yeah.
boulders. Like if she creates a little like sign for the helicopters to pick up on the ground by moving all the boulders because she's big and tall, so she can lift them all. So that it's like something spelt out in boulders on the grass.
I like it. Yeah.
And that's part of why she's like, okay, I'm just going to lie down here for a little minute now. And then when the helicopters come, they will pick this up and then I will leave. But like, they're not necessarily going to pick up the boulders if she's not there with them at the same time.
That's really nice because now we justify the reason why she lies down. No, that makes total sense. Yeah, because I do feel like we don't need it, but that moment of calm feels rewarding.
Yeah.
I think we do. It's Mad Max chaos then, where it's just action.
Yeah.
So having that, but now you justified it with the message, and you could even have fun where the helicopter is just not filming towards her, and she's like trying to move towards it, and she's like, well, God damn it. And that could be even where she just grabs the helicopter, just points it at it, and they go, she's attacking, She's like, just look, meet me there, and then lets it go. Or
she's like holding the helicopter, and it's like whacking her in the hand. Ow, 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 every time it goes
right in her knuckle.
Yeah.
Here, fly, little birdie, fly, Yeah. Then she'd have to find that a way to escape people. To be honest, I have no idea how she's going to escape anybody. I think that would be a fun part. If we can figure it out here, great. If not, we might just have to chalk it up to this is something you figure out at a later date, because that seems like, I like the idea. And even as a writer, it's fun to like put yourself into like really impossible scenarios going, how do I work out how a 50-foot person chased by everybody sneaks away? But that is a very fun challenge for her character to figure out.
I had a thought just now of, so there's a 50-foot tall person loose in a city. So very quickly, surely the thing to do is going to be to like get off the streets so that she doesn't squid you, right? And I'm imagining that like actually she's probably arranged to meet this other person somewhere very secluded so that there's not those people around anyway. So she's on her way there. The streets are just empty because like people have been told, don't leave your homes, stay inside. The 50-foot woman can't reach you inside the buildings. And like she's walking through, very busy, like in terms of building wise, very busy place, but desolate and quiet. And it's, an eerie silence along this empty street, and people kind of cowering in their windows, like trying to catch a glimpse of her, but also not wanting to get too close. But she's kind of being like, hey, how's your morning? No, that sounds dumb. That sounds so dumb. Like she's going to meet up with someone who she slept with last night. So she's like having that conversation with herself where you're like, oh God, and I haven't even like brushed my teeth. Oh, like I'm wearing the same outfit. Like it's that kind of like awkward. And it's just, is this a date? Are we,
Yeah. You can even have somebody like an influencer on the street doing like a selfie video and actually criticizing her outfit, and she's like, come on, like I got enough problems. And it's like, even that level, like that's what you chose to wear when you're that big. And it's like, no, I don't want to be this big. Oh God, like not everybody wants to be big. Like,
yeah. But I love that idea of the juxtaposition of like the view is very like Godzilla-ish, but the internal, when we get a close-up on her, it's like very normal, human who has accidentally been made 50 feet tall and now has to go meet up with their one night stand from last night, whose name they may or may not be able to remember, that kind of.
And so when she meets this person, the person would no doubt have like the formula or the solution, but can't give it to her. We can't have her give it to her because we need that to happen later. So I imagine that's when all the external parties show up, and somehow circumstance, like, it gets knocked into the water, and she's like, no, like, no, I was trying to solve my problem. I was doing it despite all of you. And that could actually be a rage she goes into, where she was like, if you just left me alone, like, you don't want me this size, I don't want to be this size. If you left me alone, I wouldn't be this size. But you had to get involved. You're sticking your little microphones up my ass, you're just getting in my face, like it that could be the point where she just goes crazy. And we actually do have a moment where she's furious, and you get that 8 minutes that you talked about in the original. Like, you do want to have a moment where she just has had enough. And I think it's justified if she nearly solved her own problem, and the helicopters, the police, the media, the public have all descended on her. And because of that, it doesn't work. I think that'd be so satisfying. Like, then the audience are on her side going, go nuts. You want to see angry? Like, I'll show you angry, Yeah.
I feel like as well she's in like a body of water. Like, it's kind of a handy place that it's like you can kind of wade out into the middle of it and just start kind of smashing, or like kind of just throwing fists. And it's like I'm out here in the middle of the water so that I'm not hurting anyone, but then actually it's just creating like waves smashing into property.
I like it.
On the shore,
Yeah. Even when you're saying that, I thought she could take a rock and just go and throw it. And it literally goes and it hits the one boat on the horizon. And she's like, I didn't see it. I did. And you see this one guy on the boat, like, it's going down. He's like, what the hell, man? It's like, how unlikely would that have happened?
Yeah, she can just pick him up and put him, on land, but the cameras don't see that.
No.
They're like, murders, man on boat. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably when, at that point, when she's in a rage, when now she actually has to learn to like be responsible. Like, this is where the responsibility part comes in, when she needs to be there for her sister for the birth. And I think that's where, in that heightened moment, that's the final run to the hospital. Now, maybe that's picking up her sister along the way. And then alongside that is a little deus ex machina, I know, but I think this can work. Like, it's when she gets to the hospital, the scientist arrives with more stuff to help her. So I think that kind of works out where, because I'm trying to think practically, why wouldn't the scientist just get more and go? Like, I think it makes sense that they finally meet.
Surely there's a backup, like,
Yeah, it's like, we do want her to shrink, and let's not go too crazy. It makes sense that she would go, look, I spilled some, let me go get more, and then I'll meet you there. But I don't think Natasha has that knowledge. It's just when she gets there, the person's there already going like, I've got you. But at that point, it's the rush to help her sister, the point to not be self-centered, self-focused, and to keep her promise no matter what excuse happens. And she's like, I have the biggest excuse to miss this. No, literally, I have the biggest excuse, but I promised I'd be there no matter what. And she's there. It's just there, is outside the window.
With a little finger poking in, being like, and then ever shrinking, like, I'm going.
Yeah. I think that's about it then. I think by that point, you've had that one long run where she's carrying a car. Is she carrying the car with the sister in it or something? Because she's kind of like it's a bit of wreckage. We didn't really describe too much wreckage. It's understandable, but there's a bit of wreckage. There's a bit of pandemonium, blocked off streets and roads for terrorist responsibility. That's not the right word, but whatever, you know what I'm doing. So now she's going to carry, now she's going to carry her sister to the hospital. She's achieved it. She's there. She's kept her promise. The scientist arrives around that time too. And so it's like, look, it's all kind of landed. She kept her promise, and the scientist showed up. And you can even have a nice moment where they actually get to chat to each other at the end. Like at the very end, she's like, "Oh, so do you want to go? Like, have you tried falafel or something?" You know, it's like
really a name, yeah.
Or maybe it's whatever she was trying to talk, like that scene you were talking about, how she's internalizing it, like walking. She goes, so yeah. Like in that moment, she's asked a question, like, because potentially there could be a follow-up date. She's like, I don't know. So you have that one moment. So after all that chaos, it just ends with she's gonna get a second date, which is actually quite sweet.
Yeah. I also feel like as well, like the place that was special to both of them, like that could have some connection to the sister, which is how the sister finds her and is like, take me to a hospital now, because again, she doesn't have a phone, so how does she know her sister's in need?
That's great. And the sister shows up,
drives herself to the boardwalk or wherever it is, and is like, ah.
That's right. This is like, yeah, you're exactly right. So the sister goes there knowing that this place is special, and she's like, I want to be there for my giant sister, but that's when her water breaks. And now it's like, okay, everybody get out of the way. It actually could be the thing that calms her down from that rage, you know, is actually seeing the sister, and she's like, look, so I think that makes perfect sense. So like we have all these different strands up to kind of meet at certain points. And I think all those strands at that one, I'm going to get the cure. It didn't happen. I met my sister. I calmed down. And then the next moment of, oh no, my water broke and we're very far away from a hospital. Yeah. And there's blockades and carnage everywhere. And she's like, I've got you. I got you. And she picks up a car and she kind of goes with it. And she's like, stop shaking the car. You know, like, I do not want to give birth in a car.
Gently.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. And I think that's it. And it all wraps up at the end. She becomes an aunt. She gets a second date. She's showcased that she can follow her word and kind of keep her promise. Yeah. Classic kind of character arc on one of these aloof, kind of irresponsible characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Amazing.
What do you think? Did you?
I like it. I'd go watch that film.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh wow, that's awesome. No, that really was. I can actually see so many of those scenes really resonating and being worthwhile and earned as well. So even just off the top of our heads, I think we've kind of figured out clear markers of like memorable moments that justify the plot. It isn't the woman scorned and it's 50 different genres colliding together. It's like it's actually one comedic, adventurous film, very satirical, about this frustrated woman who is just being misunderstood as she's just trying to keep her promise, which is quite sweet. And maintain a relationship that she potentially could foster. And she's like, these are very simple wants, and we've put her through the ringer to get to the other side. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Like the original film where it doesn't know what genre it is yet, like that there's a little bit of hearkening to a couple of different things. Like there's a little bit of Godzilla in there. There's a little bit of the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman in there. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of nice to do it in a purposeful way and not in a we don't know that we're sci-fi yet kind of way.
Yeah. The last writer made it sci-fi. This writer made it romantic drama. And it's like, no, just be consistent. Sweet. Okay, then. Is there any other thoughts you had on that before we roll credits on the film?
Nah, I think we're good.
I think we're good. I feel satisfied as well. Sweet. Well, Muireann, thank you so much for taking part. That worked out wonderful. I
Thank you
hope
so
that
much.
experience was good for you too.
Yeah, it was great fun. It's always good fun to talk films with you, Chris. So it was lovely to do it virtually. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And so if anybody wants to see more or follow Writing Chops, which is what the YouTube channel that hosts Storybreakers, just check us out on Writing Chops on YouTube or Writing Chops on Instagram or Writing Chops HQ on Twitter X. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and then put your own suggestions in for any kind of future topics or ideas, genres, characters, plot ideas that you want to have on a future Storybreakers episode. With that, I think we call it a day, Muireann. Thank you once again, and I hope you have a wonderful time.
You too.